Hey everybody, and welcome to Truck King. We have a special treat for you today. We are in the Toyota Land Cruiser Museum in Salt Lake City, Utah. Land Cruiser, of course, introduced in 1958 and has been in production in some version or another throughout the world ever since then, despite the fact that we lost it in North America and in Canada in particular some 28 years ago. However, great news. The Land Cruiser is back, and that's what we're here to see today. Follow me. So for 2024, here it is, the all-new Toyota Land Cruiser, and we're going to tell you all about it right now. So here we go. 2024 Toyota Land Cruiser. The big deal, of course, is that it is coming back to North America. It is also going to be available in the rest of the world and continues on a historic legacy which perhaps only Land Rover can match. This is a vehicle that has gone to the ends of the earth, climbed every mountain, and has come back to tell you about it. And hopefully that's what we're seeing here in terms of this next version. Now, of course, this is built on an all-new platform, one that it also shares with trucks like the Tundra and
Tacoma and the new 4Runner. Every single body-on-frame Toyota is now on this platform, TNGA-F.
Yeah, what Steve said. So, we will see how this all pans out going forward. But the other big thing is that we are just happy to see one more SUV back in the market, giving all of us Canadians one more choice.
Now let's jump into some details on this new Land Cruiser. So first thing you want to know is what's under the hood, and there's only going to be one powertrain option. That is actually the new Hybrid Max powertrain that also went into the Tacoma. So this is a 2.4 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine mated with a 48 horsepower electric motor and a 1.87 kilowatt hour battery pack. Total system output 326 horsepower, 465 pound-feet of torque, and that is sent through an 8-speed automatic transmission. Like Dad mentioned before, the Land Cruiser is now built on TNGA-F. That's Toyota's new body-on-frame platform. And you can also see with the powertrains, they're kind of standardizing them across their SUV and truck lineup. So you're either getting this smaller iForce Max, or of course the larger V6 twin turbo with the hybrid setup that won't come to the Land Cruiser. But it's just interesting, with this new platform change, there's also fewer engines that are being spread out across this whole Toyota lineup. So I think next thing we have to talk about is off-road, and of course the Land Cruiser has such a heritage for going off-road, and they didn't forget about that. So let me hit you guys with some of the numbers here. Approach angle up front is at 31 degrees, the departure angle 22 degrees. Ground clearance at the body is 8.7 inches, but I do appreciate Toyota. They're the only brand that I know of that lists body ground clearance and running ground clearance, and the running ground clearance here is 8.3 inches, and that's going to be to the bottom of the differential down there. Now, another great feature for off-roading, a front stabilizer bar disconnect, another feature that arrived for that Tacoma that's now here on Land Cruiser, that's going to help you get maximum articulation. Now, this is a full-time 4-wheel drive system as well, so no 2-wheel drive here. This thing is powering all 4 wheels at all times. There's going to be a center locking differential along with the transfer case and a rear locker here. So hearing all of those numbers and talking about all that equipment, you can tell Toyota made sure that this thing was ready to go off-road. Now that's all the hardware. There's a bunch of software that comes along with it too. Things like crawl control, that's Toyota's slow speed off-road cruise control. They have a hill descent control, and then they also have multi-terrain select, so you have a mud mode and a rock mode. So yes, it's hardware, but it's also all that software that should make the Land Cruiser good off-road. And then just the dimensions of it. I mean, this is actually smaller than the outgoing 200 series Land Cruiser, and you can tell by looking at it, it's a definite departure from what the Land Cruiser used to be. And I can give you the numbers on that too. So compared to the outgoing Land Cruiser, the one you're looking at here is 4.4 inches narrower and 1.1 inches shorter. So a little more compact, always good for off-roading. And I think this should help the Toyota Land Cruiser be a little bit more accepted by the general public, maybe a little bit less of a niche vehicle with this new generation. And you know what, we can talk to someone at Toyota about that right now.
We're thrilled to have Toyota Land Cruiser back simply because of the heritage, the history of this vehicle. However, let me ask you, why has Toyota decided to come back to North America with this vehicle?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're looking at it, right? We have this incredible museum full of the, as you said, very rich history and the legacy of this vehicle. We had a very different positioning in the last generation, right? A bit of a more luxury spin. So we're really going back to the rugged roots with this vehicle. It is truly built for the enthusiast, but also is going to be a great ride for the everyday driver.
And to that point, so if we had to kind of do it on a percentage basis, you're saying it's leaning more towards the adventure crowd and the off-roading crowd, as opposed to the mall crawler.
Well, I wouldn't say maybe leaning more towards them, but I think it's definitely built for the enthusiast, right? They are going to love this vehicle. It is as authentic as it comes when it comes to the name Land Cruiser, but I think that new buyers are going to love it as well. As someone who's inherently maybe an enthusiast, this is my ideal driver. It has the style, but it also has a lot of the history that goes along with it. I mean, this color is pretty incredible. I think anybody who is on their daily commuter, they're gonna love this as well. And it's really great for families. I mean, we have an optional cool box, so you can put all your snacks in there too for the kids, right, on long road trips. So I think it's got a pretty wide appeal, definitely.
So as far as market niche is concerned, who are you up against in this coming fight?
Yeah, so I think some of our key competitors are definitely going to be Bronco. We're also looking at Jeep Wrangler and Defender, and a lot of that is going back to that previous generation of Land Cruiser that was positioned a little bit more in that luxury space. So we are going to, again, be kind of repositioning this one back to its rugged roots where, you know, Bronco and Wrangler are going to come into play.
Okay, and you know what, I don't know if we're talking about price yet, but can we at least say, is it going to be competitive to the brands you've mentioned?
Yes, absolutely. I think people are going to be very excited and very pleased with the price point of this vehicle. It's much more in line with what you're used to seeing with our Toyota lineup.
All right, well then speaking to that, my sense, what I'm getting is that you guys are trying to go a little more mainstream, because the old Land Cruiser was very much a niche vehicle.
Yeah.
And some of the brands you mentioned are very much mainstream.
Yeah, I don't know that I would say mainstream. I mean, this is definitely a special vehicle that has a really special place in people's hearts who remember Land Cruiser, right? But yes, I think it does definitely come along with a wider appeal, and we've got some great spec that can be appealing to many, many different audiences. So, what is the
rollout? As far as we're looking at this here today, when will I be able to buy one?
Yep, we're looking at spring 2024.
I just had to jump into the driver's seat now, and the first thing you notice sitting here is, like a Jeep Wrangler, like a Ford Bronco, you have a tall seating position, kind of very squared off dimension, so I have a pretty good sense of where that nose drops right off, good visibility out of my mirrors. These are the things you look for in an off-road vehicle. Right off the bat is just sort of what the seating position is and how I can see around the vehicle, and this feels pretty good. It also, sitting here, has a bit of a compact feeling, which I like. So interior, of course, full of technology. I should also mention at this point, this is the Land Cruiser, and there's 3 different trims available. The base trim is called the 1958. This trim is simply called the Land Cruiser. And then the top trim is the first edition model, but there's only going to be 5,000 of those. So once those are gone, they're gone. Basically what you're looking at here is a top trim Land Cruiser, hence all the technology. So 12.3 inch touchscreen over here in the center stack, fully digital gauge cluster in front of me. I have a rear camera mirror up here. So yeah, you're certainly not missing any of those modern luxuries here. A couple different redesigned things. I have my locker switches and all my off-road stuff down here to my right. Drive modes, multi-terrain select, and crawl control. And that's a bit different because Toyota used to put them up here on the roof, but now they've brought them all down here. So I like the driving seating position. It feels nice up here. Why don't I climb in the back now though? Because it's always important to see how these seats are. And now there is no official specs on rear seat legroom yet, so I can't tell you a number here. But geez, this is good. This is really good. I have plenty of headroom, We don't have a massive panoramic sunroof here, so that's not an issue. And this was my seating position, and you can see I got a good couple inches between my knees and the seat. This is fairly spacious for a back seat. And I was worried, again, because it's a little shorter, a little narrower, maybe it wouldn't feel so big, but it does feel nice. Now for amenities, I have full HVAC controls down here. I also get a pair of USB-C ports, and what's there in the middle? A 12-volt outlet as well. So all the power, you're gonna go on out of the rears. Yeah, this is a legitimate back seat for a full-size adult all day long.
Let's go see how much cargo room we get, Steve.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So, of course, this is a Toyota. They still have the glass that opens by itself. I think that's a smart feature. I always hear from Toyota owners that they love this, so why not keep it around, right? So now we can close that up. Powered hatch. And again, I don't have a number to throw at you for the amount of cargo space this is, but it feels like a lot. A legitimate amount of cargo space, so you could have 3 people in that back seat and still store quite a bit of stuff here. Now let's see what other tricks we have. We got a little removable floor panel there. Nice little storage bin. And then let's see what's up in here. This is gonna be your spare tire, I'm assuming. Let me find out. This is all new to us too. Oh, that's not opening. You know what, Dad? Let me peek my head underneath to look for the spare. Oh, there's the spare. So it's not inside. The spare tire is underneath. That's just a toolkit then up there that opens up. But there's also some cup holders back here, and we have a plug here, Dad, and that's 2,400 watts. So legitimate power. Because this is a hybrid, you can plug some things in. I really like that too.
Yeah, and if you get those 60-40 splits seats down,
yeah,
you're gonna have a really, really large.
Whoa, look at that, they tumble forward too.
Oh, that's
so
handy.
Exactly what you're saying. If you got one passenger there, you need the cargo space, you can do that. So clearly an eye towards, yeah, utility and adventure was put into this just based on how much space we have.
And clearly an eye towards going up against some of the biggest current off-roaders from Jeep and Ford.
Sure, and let me just say this right now. I don't have the numbers, so maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. This feels bigger in the back than both a Wrangler and a Bronco. Wrangler and a Bronco, still a little tighter, which might be better off-road, but this definitely has a nicer back seat, and it has a lot of cargo space back here. So those are gonna be some of the decisions you're gonna have to make if you're cross-shopping those, right? But of course, the roof doesn't come off here. That's too bad. So I already mentioned there are 3 different trims of the Land Cruiser, and this is the base model. This is the 1958. And the first thing you're gonna notice, the headlights are different and the fascia is a little bit different. So you're gonna be able to tell the difference between these models just based on how they look. And I gotta tell you, I think I prefer the round headlights. This is a little more heritage. This looks a little bit more like an old Land Cruiser. That Land Cruiser model, it's a little more modern looking. It's a bit of a modern take. So I kind of like that they didn't keep the styling the same on all the different models. The other thing I want to point out here, because again, it was a big deal on the Tundra and the Tacoma, we do have tow hooks. They're a little buried underneath the bumper, but you do get 2 really nice tow hooks right there, right onto the frame, and tons of metal skid plates underneath. I think they're aluminum, I'm not totally sure, but still, it looks really nicely sealed up down there. Another important trait for an off-road vehicle. And here's the interior of this 1958. The first thing you're gonna notice, no leather here, you're just getting cloth seats, and you're getting a slightly smaller touchscreen up there in the center stack. I'm gonna say it's probably 8-inch touchscreen up there, but you're still getting the same infotainment system, which is nice, and you're getting that nearly fully digital display up in front of the driver. I think this is a base model. They had to differentiate it when it comes to price, of course, and you can see that, but you're not really missing a lot here either. You're getting the lockers, you're getting all the off-road equipment, so it's the old story is if you only care about off-roading, this is probably the model for you. If you want a little more luxury and you want to drive this thing a little bit more, daily drive it, you might end up going up for one of those Land Cruiser models.
Well, Steve, and this should be very capable, being that it is a 1958. And as speaking as somebody who is also a 1958 model, I'm in pretty good shape.
That's true. Dad is the same age as the Land Cruiser. Well, we should say the same age as the publicly available Land Cruiser, because the military Land Cruisers were around from like 1950. I've been learning my history today here at the museum. So I think another thing we're going to touch on right now is the price. We only have one little bit of info on it. Toyota USA says that this model, the 1958, will start in the mid-50s. So let's just call it $55,000. And that, of course, leaves lots of space for them to go up with the luxury models. But more importantly, Dad, I think it leaves space for the 4Runner, because this is gonna maybe overlap with the 4Runner a little bit. So starting at 55 here, if the 4Runner starts maybe 10 grand or more cheaper, well, that's gonna help to differentiate those two models as well. And you still have a 4Runner today, but there's a new 4Runner coming probably next year. So I'm really curious to see how they kind of balance out with each other. But anyways, this model here, mid-50s in the US, which, and this is a total guess, I'm gonna say it's probably mid-60s in Canada, because that's usually how that works. Well, folks, we have arrived at the end of this video. And here on my right, you can see this is the history of the Land Cruiser. These vehicles were built as utilitarian vehicles to do hard work in hard to get to places, and they never died. Those were the most important traits of the Land Cruiser. And you can see with this new model, they've strayed from that a little bit, made it a little bit more friendly for daily driving. But all of the important off-road, rugged adventure stuff is still there. It's just more of a blend now compared to these ones, which were all about getting the job done. But you know what? Land Cruiser has such exciting history. I think Toyota just couldn't leave that nameplate out of North America. And I gotta tell you, I'm so excited that they brought it back. I know Dad is too. What do you think, Dad? You excited?
Sure, I love having more choices.
Exactly, and we're gonna take this thing off-road as soon as we can. So that's it for this one, guys. Now, of course, I need to hear from you. Go into the comments, let me know what you think of all these Land Cruisers, but of course, the new model. As always, while you're down below, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, hit join to become a member of Truck King, and then come right back here to the channel to see what we're testing next. See ya.